we can move forward. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 19th Township Committee meeting. We will now salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, there are a couple of things that I want to do and have a moment of silence, a couple moments of silence rather. And the first moment of silence that I want to have is for Carl Cecilia, who was a resident of Hillcrest Road and passed away recently due to COVID. He was a hero. He was a nurse and worked throughout the pandemic, lost his life fighting for others. So I'd like to give him a moment of silence, and also like everybody to mute their phones as well or mute their lines. And let's have a moment of silence for Carl. Thank you. And I also want to do one more moment of silence, and that is to recognize that tonight at 5:30, communities like Maplewood and South Orange and throughout our country joined the incoming Biden-Harris administration in participating in a nationwide COVID-19 memorial service. And it was really to honor those that we've lost. In Maplewood alone, we've lost 869 lives. We've had 869 cases and lost 31 lives here in Maplewood. So now that our country has reached over 400,000, which is astronomical, unbelievable, I just want to take a moment to recognize and pay respects to the 31 lives that we've lost so far as a result of COVID-19. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws in 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2021 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2020, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
I think he dropped off.
Mayor McGehee?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has a discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And good evening, everyone, again. I will briefly go through our agenda and then we will commence. Tonight, we will first start with public comment on agenda items only. Then we'll move to nominate and to approve 3 appointments to boards and committees, 1 for our Environmental Advisory Committee and 2 for our Community Board on Police. Next, we'll move on to have a proclamation. We'll be recognizing the 10th anniversary of our shared court in Maplewood and South Orange. And then following that, we will have our employee spotlight, which is very fitting because we'll be recognizing our court administrator, Ryan Bancroft. We'll then move into assortment of final ordinances on final. We have 4. We have one regarding the Department of Health and creating that as a department. The next one we have is regards to structures and corner plantings on properties. Our third ordinance on final is regarding accessory dwelling units. And then our fourth and final ordinance that's on final passage is relating to site triangles for developments. We'll then have one ordinance on introduction, which is related to our gas powered leaf blower current ordinance. Then from there, we'll have a resolution. This is related to our energy aggregation project. And then from there, we'll have reports from departments. We'll hear from our administrative team. Then we'll hear from our elected officials. Moving on, we will then have our discussions, and we have 2 items for tonight. We have one related to our public health division and an MOA with South Orange. And then we'll have an update regarding our bonding for the Maple Library. From there, we'll move into our consent agenda. Tonight, we have 15 items on that agenda, and they include, and not limited to, authorization of our towing company, appointing a representative or representatives for Essex County Community Development for 2021, approving participation in the state of New Jersey Safe and Secure Communities Program. We'll be authorizing payment for our mid-block crosswalk, authorizing refund of tax overpayments. We'll also be authorizing payment to a couple of retired police officers. We'll authorize the budget transfer of appropriation reserves for 2020, bills and claims, and then awarding a contract for Memorial Park Civic House Bridge repair. And then we'll also approve our regular session minutes, and then also approve our closed session minutes, although there was no closed session last meeting. At that point, we'll move into agenda item number 20, where we will have an open public comment on any subject matter, limit to 3 minutes, and then we will adjourn. So therein lies our agenda for tonight. Again, another robust evening. And I'd like to now open up the floor for any public comments regarding agenda items only, 3 minutes only. So Nick, do we have anyone? I yield the floor.
I'll be covering for Nick tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I have one from Emily Fromm. Emily, you have 3 minutes, agenda items only.
Guys, I spoke last time. I don't need a full 3 minutes. I just wanted to turn up and show my support for the extending the leaf blower ban. I think it would be a huge gift to our community, and just wanted to turn up as a member of the public and let you know how much I support that if that goes through. Thanks.
Thank you. Glenn, you're on.
Sorry, I was muted. I have 2 more. Okay, we'll go to Joy Yagid. Okay, Joy, you're up.
Hi, thank you. I would also like to support the extension of the leaf blower ban, because basically it's untenable sometimes working when I have all my neighboring properties blowing the leaves, and sometimes it's hours upon hours upon hours of droning. And also because of the unsafe noise levels, the blowing up of all the particulate, and also the social justice issues of the people who are working who clearly don't have the correct protective gear. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, I'm going to Ellen Archer. Ellen, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to speak again. I spoke last time, so I don't need to repeat all that I said, but I just wanted to say hi to everybody and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And The leaf blower ban, I'm so glad that you're taking up this issue again. It really is very important to our community. And I personally am very affected by it, but as you know, by just sort of, as the last speaker said, constant droning, concerns about employee safety, and fully convinced there's a better way with, at the very least, electric blowers, but also with a full ban. It's been really impossible to enforce the codes that you already have in place, and doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime. So thank you for taking up this issue. It means a great deal to the community, and I appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
We have one more, Mayor, and that's Rachel. Go ahead, Rachel.
I just wanted to say something on this issue, just on behalf of Quiet Maplewood. I just wanted to say that there has been an overwhelmingly positive response from the subscribers, and that we are now 5 out of the 12 months of our way towards achieving our goal of the complete phase out. And now for 5 months of the year, our residents will enjoy the outdoors with cleaner air, less toxic fumes and dust, without the excessive noise levels that would otherwise drive them into their homes. The towns that have banned gas leaf blowers continue to have successful landscaping businesses, well-kept yards, and only one simple outstanding question: why didn't we do this sooner? Thank you. Thank you for listening and taking the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Glenn, do we have any more individuals who would like, or resident like to address the Township Committee?
Not that I see, Mayor. You're good to go.
Great. Thank you so much, Glenn. Appreciate that. And that was a beautiful segue, Rachel. So I'm going to yield the floor to Ms. Adams so we can move on to boards and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, since you just spoke, Rachel, we'll go right to you. Rachel's a relatively new resident, at least compared to many of us. And she started the website Quiet Maplewood, having as an at-home mom of 2 little kids, having been affected personally by the issue that she just spoke about. So she came to our Environmental Advisory Committee meeting. That was the beginning of December. And we have a vacancy on environmental advisory. So I asked her to consider, as did Bob McCoy, who's the chair, to consider joining the EAC. So we invited Rachel here to introduce herself to my colleagues and just tell us a little bit about yourself, Rachel, and why you're interested in the EAC, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Okay. Sure. I might be a little redundant, but I'll tell you a little bit more about myself and and why I'd like to join the Environmental Advisory Committee. So I moved to Maplewood from Brooklyn in 2017 with my husband and 1-year-old, and we now have an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. In terms of my career, after working in finance for several years, I went back to school and became a career in fashion, which I left about 4 years ago to be at home with my kids. I'm excited in hopes to join the Environmental Advisory Committee. I want to be part of the positive change in sustainability and green practices I see implemented in this town. I look forward to learning from the members, and I will bring my enthusiasm and effort to the team's initiatives for 2021. I've recently joined Soma Action Climate and founded Quiet Maplewood. These endeavors have highlighted the significant accomplishments by town officials and residents. I'm inspired by the advocacy for the environment because it encompasses the things we all care about, our health and our children's future. So thank you for taking the time this evening.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much. Totally agree with everything you just said, and happy to have new enthusiasm on the Environmental Advisory Committee. I learn a ton at every meeting and on a variety of issues. So I'd ask my colleagues to join me. I'd like to make a motion to add Rachel Mecca to the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Adams, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes. Congratulations, Rachel, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you
really
so
excited.
much.
Thank you.
Congrats, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with a couple more nominations for boards and committees, and I'll yield the floor to Mr. Daffis and Mr. Limbrick.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two folks from the community who we are recommending this evening to serve on our community board on police. These two fine community members who are already invested in our community in one way or another were recently selected during a competitive interview process to fill the current 2 open seats. We're going to start with Mr. Ayo Akinoye. And Ayo, take it away. Introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in serving on the board. And I hope I didn't butcher your name, sir.
No, you didn't, and it's fine. Because it took me a while too, is what I always say. So, thank you all for having me join you guys. Just real quick about me, 10 years also from Brooklyn, 10 years in Maplewood. And, we've grown with the town in a lot of ways, and the town has been a lot of blessing to us. And in a lot of ways, we have two boys. One is 12 and one is 15. The older one has autism, and I always judge people by the way they treat children. And in a lot of ways, the town is not perfect, and people aren't, and towns and communities are not perfect. But this community and this town has been helpful and being a strong place for my children. And that's really key and very important to me. And my wife and I really, value being here. And that's why, I thought a way for me to give back based on my experience, based on, being, I think I mentioned to you guys originally, I'm have a couple of businesses in Brooklyn that interact a lot with the NYPD out there. And I've learned a lot from those interactions and being around police officers and learning from them and what they do and trying to figure out a way to contribute. I thought this would be, the community board and police would be a great way for me to contribute to the town and show my appreciation for it. So I appreciate the consideration. Hopefully, I'll be able to do as well, as I know some of the incredible work that's already been done. Hopefully I can help and keep up with that and keep going with that. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ayo. And we welcome you and your perspective on the board. And with that, I'm going to move that we appoint Mr. Akinoye to the Maplewood Community Board on Police for a term of 3 years to start this year. Do I have a
Mr.
second?
Daffis, I'll second that and just note, for the public record that this is for one of the at-large seats on the community board.
That's right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mr. Limbrick and Mr. Daffis, I yield the floor back to you.
We congratulate Ayo. Yay. Thanks again. I think I'm going to invite Mr. Lembrick to introduce our next nominee, although I think Ms. Fritzen alerted us that due to work, she's running a little bit late and will not be able to join us until 8:05 or so. So perhaps we can return to this item, Mr. Mayor. How do you want to handle it?
That's at 8:10 tonight.
Okay.
Okay, if we can table this particular item, and then we can revisit it when Blue joins us.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest maybe after the ordinance and before the administrative reports we should probably be there.
Okay. Yep, sounds good. Put it right there. Okay, it's been duly noted and moved, and so we will, we'll table it for now and return. All right, so moving forward to agenda item number 7, which is our proclamation recognizing our shared courts 10th year anniversary, and I will read that into the record. Whereas in 2008, upon completion of the LEED certified silver Maplewood and Police and Court building, and whereas a feasibility study had been conducted, wherein it was concluded that both the Township of Maplewood and the Township of South Orange could both save and increase revenue sources via a joint operation with returnable back to their local taxpayers. On December 13th, 2010, then Mayor Vic DeLuca of Maplewood and then Village President Douglas Newman of South Orange entered into a shared services agreement, which set forth the shared courts to begin operations on January 1st, 2011. And whereas the two townships stakeholders per the interlocal agreement meet every 8th month since inception to evaluate, support, adjust, account, and celebrate the continued challenges to ensure a successful agreement and progressive local arm of the judiciary, including the following achievements: acquiring technology for automated filling, paperless retention in virtual courts, reinvesting in staff through POMCA training, Rutgers School of Government, Security, and Wellness initiatives, implementing and helping to craft on the statewide policy through bail reform, criminal justice reform, walk-in warrant policy, and greater access to the public via online resources. And whereas the above reflects the two townships' 10-year successful commitment, support, care, and demand for the independent branch of government, which every day, session in defiant places a priority on serving our two diverse communities and its residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood celebrate and mark this interlocal agreement as a successful initiative and look forward to the continued success for many more years to come. Congratulations, Ryan, Annette, and everyone else involved, Judge Stan, also Judge Otis, and everyone else involved in the team in this major successful accomplishment. So we'll get this framed for you, Ryan, and we'll send it your way. How about that?
I love it. I'll put it next, hopefully the 20th anniversary one in another 10 years.
Sounds like a plan. I'll show you really quickly what it looks like. So there you go. There it is right there. So
thanks so much, Mayor.
You're welcome. All right, so we'll now move on to agenda item number 8. And Ryan, don't go anywhere because you are our employee spotlight or employee of the month. So I'll yield the floor to Mr. Lindbergh.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Speaking of suitable for framing, we have another beautiful resolution, which I will be happy to read, though probably not verbatim. But Ryan, I think you hopefully knew before tonight, but certainly you know after tonight how appreciated you and our courts overall are by the township, and in particular by us on the Township Committee. So I'm pleased to tonight to read this resolution recognizing and appreciating you. Whereas recognizing Ryan Bancroft for his commitment and excellent work for this township, Ryan has enormous responsibility for managing the shared municipal courts of Maplewood and South Orange and is a true asset to the Township of Maplewood. We, the Township Committee, wish to extend our utmost appreciation for the work that Ryan has done to make public service an exciting and joyous experience for the residents of the Township of Maplewood and the Township of South Orange, and probably a less than joyous experience for people outside of Maplewood and South Orange who end up coming to court. But you guys do a great job, and the Township Committee wishes to extend our sincere best wishes for every happiness in the future and for your continued success in making this township a desirable place to live and work. So now therefore be it resolved that the Maplewood Township Committee recognizes and appreciates the service of staff member Ryan X. Bancroft and wishes him well in all future endeavors. And further, that this resolution be duly recorded by the Township Committee on this 19th day of January, 2021. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much, Greg. I would say this is a good time for my budget hearing tomorrow. I'm kicking myself that I didn't put a merit increase in.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yes, Mr. Desidero.
Thank you. You know, I've known Ryan since before the shared court, and it's kind of interesting that the shared court proclamation and Ryan's recognition are on the same day. Some of you who know me know I'm slightly cynical, and I had my serious concerns about the shared court. I was 100% wrong. Ryan has made it work. He's worked with 2 towns. So not only has he worked with the elected officials from Maplewood, he's also done it with South Orange. He's made it a success, not only in Essex County, but as an example of what can be done both here in our county and in the state. So I join with all of you in congratulating Ryan for doing a great job. So thank you, Ryan, on behalf of the citizens of Maplewood.
Thank you, Roger. It means a lot. And just briefly, I mean, I got a long list of people I'd like to thank. You all know who you are, not only in Maplewood, South Orange, certainly former governing body, current governing body, mayors, judges, Judge Varon, you mentioned Judge Otis, Judge Barry Austin, Judge Rosenbluth, more, you know, close to home. It's our staff. They're amazing. I said it 10 years ago. I said it today. I get a lot of credit that they do all the work for. So I really can't speak for it. They really do a great job. They put their heart and soul into this. I think we've really created something great here that keeps evolving. It keeps getting better, keeps getting changing, including this year. I get amazing support. And Roger, tip my cap back to you. Other courts deal with a lot of different issues involving government, revenues, things like that. The independence, the belief you have in us, in what we do and what this township believes in, both here in Maplewood and South Orange. There was a line in there, which clearly I sort of crafted, which I talked about this with the mayor, which is, you know, how do you work with diversity? How does that happen? And it's every day, it's every customer, it's every session, it's every defendant. It doesn't occur over time. It takes hard work. And that's the staff, that's the judges, that's our prosecutors. Annette, of course, for you, always been support to me. And again, I get a lot of credit for a lot of work and a lot of effort that people put in that I got to be honest, I don't think everyone gets everywhere else. So my credit to everyone on this call and certainly the governing bodies. It's been a fantastic run, and I really thanks. And lastly, and I always forget this part, it's late at night. I spent a lot of nights in this building, in this town. And I gotta thank, and most importantly, is my wife, Jessica, and my 2 kids. 2011 was an amazing year. My daughter Dylan was born as well. My wife had some quite serious medical conditions. So I'm celebrating. I know this is difficult times to celebrate, and I think we need to do it. I think it's important. I think it's important for government. And I just want to say thanks to everyone. It's been an amazing 10 years. And thanks for everything. I think we went into this, and I think former Mayor Vic DeLuca said, do you think this could work? And I said, yes, I never knowing he'd believe me. So thank you to everyone, and just really appreciate it. And again, I didn't thank Maplewood Police Department, South Orange Police Department, but they also deserve it. I mean, there's a lot of stakeholders involved in this. Let's continue to celebrate. I think it's good government. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Very well deserved, Ryan. Congratulations. You
Thanks,
worked
Annette.
very, very hard.
Thank you.
So can I just say a couple things?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So other than being a Mets fan, that's one reason why you're such a good guy. I just want to thank you for the time. Compared to our discussions about sharing the fire department, this was done in a blink of an eye. It only took 2 years of negotiating with South Orange. And we would not have been able to do it without Ryan there, because we had confidence that whatever we put together Ryan would be able to make it happen. And when you talk about these shared services, you can't always separate the personalities from the systems. And that's what was important here, is that we set up the system, but we had Ryan there. And I do remember, though, Ryan, you and I had a heart-to-heart meeting in my office in probably the summer of 2010. And I think you really got excited after that meeting and really took it on. And because we knew that if we could make this work, we would be the showcase of the state, of every suburban large district, large court district. And that's what we are now. And so much of it is due to Ryan and the support of all the governing bodies in both Maplewood and South Orange. So kudos to you, Ryan. Thank you for making our, I always say at these things, we do the policy and you guys actually make things happen. Well, this is a good example of it. We did the policy and you made it happen. And thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, governing body. Really appreciate all your support, and it just means a lot to me. So thank you.
Wow, you really should have put in for a merit increase.
Thank you, Ryan. Great job. So Ryan and Rachel and Io, I should have mentioned this earlier, but you do not feel obligated to stay with us for the next hopefully hour and a half, give or take. You have families and other things happening, so feel free to sign off. We appreciate you being here tonight and enjoy your evening. All right, we'll move on in our agenda. We're now on agenda item number 9. We have ordinance on final. Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3012-21. It's an ordinance to create the Department of Health. This ordinance will create and define the Department of Health within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public according to law. Would anyone like to speak on creating and defining the Department of Health within the Township of Maplewood? Glenn, anyone? All right, hearing none. I'm assuming hearing none. We will close the public hearing. May I get a motion, Mr. Daffis?
Yes, Mayor, I'm delighted to move this ordinance on final passage. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We have our second of 4 ordinances on final.
Yes, Mayor, item number 10, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3013-21, an ordinance to establish guidelines for the construction and maintenance of structures and plantings for corner properties. This ordinance will establish construction and maintenance guidelines for corner properties so as to maintain a clear sight triangle at intersections.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on establishing construction and maintenance guidelines for corner properties as to maintain a clear sight triangle at intersections? Glenn, do we have anyone? Okay, perfect. All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. May I get a motion, Mr. Daffis?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on our third of 4 ordinances on final.
Yes, Mayor. Item 11, ordinance number 3014-21, is an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will amend ordinance number 3008-20 by allowing accessory dwelling units in homes that have been designated as historic by the Historic Preservation Commission.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance allowing accessory dwelling units in homes that have been designated as historic?
No one there.
Thank you, Gordon. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. May I get a motion, Mr.?
Mayor, if I may, please.
Yes.
Mayor, with this matter in the normal course, because it affects our zoning laws, was referred to the planning board for review as required by the statute. The planning board reported back to us, but because of a heavy agenda, they were not able to get to it at their January meeting. I am advised that it will be on for their February meeting. That being said, I would request that a motion be made to carry this ordinance to the February 16th meeting. The planning board meeting is on February 9th. So that would be 2 meetings from now. So that could be dealt with after the planning board has made its review and its recommendation.
I have no argument with that. And we did note that in an email thread. Would anyone like to move that motion as stated by Mr. Desiderio?
Mayor, I move that we table this ordinance on final passage until our February 16th governing body meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question. Mr. Desiderio, we can have another public hearing on the 16th, correct?
Correct. When we listed it, we'll be on for a second public hearing. That is correct. We leave it on for tonight in case someone may come on. We don't want to cut them off.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. It's our fourth and final ordinance on final passage and similar in scope. Ms. Fritzen?
Yes, Mayor. So item number 12, ordinance number 3015-21. It's an ordinance to amend chapters 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will adopt the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials standards for site triangles for development projects approved subsequent to the effective date of this ordinance within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak publicly on the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Official Standards for site triangles for development projects approved subsequent to the effective date of this ordinance?
No one there.
All right, hearing none. Mr. Dafford, would you like to provide that ordinance, that motion rather, which we communicated on agenda item number 11?
Certainly, Mayor. I move that we table the final passage of this ordinance until our second meeting in February 16th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion on this ordinance on final? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And now we have ordinance on introduction.
Yes, Mayor, we do. Item 13, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 3016-21. An ordinance limiting use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood.
May I get a motion, Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on February 2nd.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on agenda item number 14, resolution.
Resolution read by title, Mayor. It's resolution number 36-21. A resolution approving an amendment to the contract awarded to Energy Harbor LLC to provide electric generation service to Sustainable Essex Alliance Energy Procurement Cooperative, which is SEA EPC, Renewable Government Energy Aggregation R-GEA, participants in PSE&G territory, and to provide government energy aggregation services in connection with the SEA EPC R-GEA program.
Mr. DeLuca, may I get a motion, please?
Want me to move it first or introduce it? Discuss it.
Well, if you want to discuss it, let's go ahead and discuss it first. But I was going to have you go ahead.
So we have Bob Chilton from Gable Associates and Annette De Palma, our Director of Community Development here, in case you have questions. I did send out a memo earlier. In a nutshell, there's been some rate changes on PSE&G subsequent to our approving a contract with Energy Harbor. We were concerned about whether or not that contract that we approved would actually result in a reduced rate from PSE&G. So we had a meeting of our 7 towns in the SEA. We instructed Bob Chilton from Gable to go back to Energy Harbor to see if something could be done around with the contract. And we've put together a package. Energy Harbor is reducing their fee a bit. Bob Chilton's company is making a contribution, and we are reducing the amount that's going to go into the energy efficiency program. And we also have about 150,000 in there from the first year, so that really won't affect it too much. We are going to have 40% green content, which is 70+% more than PSE&G. PSE&G is at 23%. And we're also going to have in this program, we've retained the 100% opt-up. So that's if a customer wants to get 100% renewable, they can pay a little extra. So what we have to do tonight is to approve a revised contract with Energy Harbor, because we've reduced the price, or Energy Harbor has reduced the price to sell us electricity. So Bob Chilton, did I cover this pretty well?
Yes, good evening. Yes, Vic, I think you hit every aspect of it. The only thing I might mention is that as part of this package of amendments to lower the price, the start date for the contract is being moved 1 month from, originally it was going to be March, and now it's going to be April. So the mailing to residents would go out in the first week of February as compared to the original schedule of the first week in January. And then the opt-out period would ensue from there, leading up to the contract start in April. But other than that, I think Vic, you hit all the high points of the amendment.
And we're still below what we're estimating the PSE&G rate will be, correct?
That's correct.
Mayor, I have a couple questions, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Daffis.
So what is the savings to the typical customer, we think?
So based on all the information we have right now, it looks to be about $20 per customer. So a little over 1%, or about $20 plus, as was mentioned, the renewable energy content, which is about a little less than double the PSE&G content.
And what assurances, I think I'm okay with the contract, but I got to tell you, based on our experience during the whole direct energy period, I think we need to have better customer service built into this. I know notices go out to residents by mail, and I know that Vic is incredible all the time about organizing, excuse me, at least one community forum. But we know that this stuff is very technical and very difficult to understand, especially when we talk about those customers who are going to be on a savings plan. And and what those effects are going to be to them at the end of the contract if they end up using more energy. So we've had a lot of issues with customer service, a lot. We get a lot of emails. And so what are we doing this time that's going to be better to address that?
Sure. So first of all, I'm just going to say that Energy Harbor, we have had one contract with them now with Plainsboro for, that's been in place now for about 7 months now. And we have not really received any complaints on customer service. So we're hopeful that we've got a good supplier in that regard. But specifically with regard to the budget billing, there's a couple things. Obviously, the one major issue that happened at the beginning of the last contract with Direct Energy was that they mistakenly enrolled the large mass of Maplewood residents for budget billing rather than the about 15% of residents that really should have been enrolled. And that really was a glitch, which sort of carried through to the end. And so that really, I'll be honest with you, we've been doing this for 9 years. I've never seen that happen before. That was quite an original, unfortunately, to the bad glitch that they made. So obviously, the first thing we're going to do, although it was a highly unusual case, we're going to be doubly diligent with Energy Harbor when they enroll all the residents to make sure that they're only enrolling those folks marked as having budget billing accounts with PSE&G as being enrolled with Energy Harbor for budget billing. So that's item number one for sure. And then secondly, that situation was sort of exacerbated by part of it, I'd say a good part of it, but certainly not all of it, was related to the change in energy patterns with over the last year or so with COVID, where while on the commercial side, overall commercial energy usage was down somewhat, residential was up overall for many, if not most customers, just due to the fact that more folks were home for longer periods of time, et cetera. And so we found that in a typical year at the end of a contract, when there's a final reconciliation, if you will, of a budget bill, where the budget bill is always set based upon the historical usage, and then it gets reconciled at the end. And typically when we get a list of final true-ups from a supplier, it will typically be about 50% that are owed a credit and about 50% that owe some money to the supplier because of usage being different than historical. Because of COVID, we saw that pattern change significantly. This time around, it was about a 75-25 split. About 75% of the folks owed some amount at the end, and about 25% were owed a credit. So I think that just reflects the overall pattern that over the last year, usage has gone up relative to historical. So that contributed somewhat to the situation where more people had positive balance and larger balances. So we're going to, again, work with Energy Harbor to really work with them quarterly now to review budget billing accounts to see where they stand relative to historical, and to have them make more frequent adjustments to the budget billing amount if necessary to prevent a large buildup of a deficit amount. We're also going to be working with the Board of Public Utilities, because one thing Direct Energy told us is that they were reluctant to make more frequent adjustments because they felt that that would be violative of the BPU's rules on budget billing. And we're going to be working with the BPU to make sure that Energy Harbor hears the message loud and clear that they are not prohibited from making more timely, if necessary, more timely adjustments and more frequent adjustments to budget billing amounts, so folks stay reasonably on track so they don't experience large balances at the end. So I think that kind of covers what we're trying to do proactively to prevent that situation from happening again.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, Vic, can we get a little more clarification with regard to, for the public's sake, with regard to the amount of green energy that PSE&G provides versus the amount of green energy here? Because while the savings might be less significant than we'd hoped or than people might want, the really important part is the sustainability aspect of it. And I think that kind of gets lost with the dollars. So
Bob, why don't you talk about that?
Sure. So the state mandated renewable energy content which the utilities, including PSE&G, are required to include in the power supply that they get on the open market for customers who don't switch, is 23.5% currently. And this contract will have 40% renewable energy. So that's about it's about 75% higher content for the Sustainable Essex contract as compared to PSEG. It's about 40% compared to 23.5.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Chilton, and also, might want to make a suggestion that we consider if there's, I know we don't do usually a public hearing for a resolution, but since Mr. Chilton wasn't at least, known to the public to be here for questions, that if anyone attending has questions that we maybe, allow a public comment or a hearing period. But my question for Mr. Chilton is, do we have any sort of commitment from PSE&G or anyone else to read the meters? Who's going to be reading the meters?
So there's a program like this, an energy aggregation program, or any third-party supply for that matter, if folks just shop on their own, does not in any way affect the delivery side of the business, which includes meter reading. So PSE&G has been and always will be responsible for maintaining the delivery system, maintaining the service drop to the meter, maintaining the meter, reading the meter, and billing. So there is no change at all to that function. PSE&G will always have that function. That's part of their regulated part of their business that essentially is a monopoly.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chilton, thank you for being here. It's really good to have you here. I think it's really important. And I also just want to take a second to thank Mr. Palmer, not only for just being here, but also for doing a great job of addressing many of the challenges that were communicated to myself and my colleagues, maybe even to her directly, regarding the balloon payments that were required through the previous contract. So thank you, Mr. Palmer. I do have two questions. You're welcome. I do have two questions. One is on awareness and another one's on process. The first question on awareness, you mentioned that the communication will be going out on February 1st in regards to a 4/1 commencement date. Now you mentioned one communication. Will there be multiple communications, especially for those who may be more cognizant, regardless of this being a new experience, who may want to opt out? Are we planning to send multiple communications? And what type of communication channels are we going to use?
So Mayor, on the program side, officially, we've got the mailing that goes out. It's going to be February 6th is the current target date. That will go out, and that will have a letter, an introductory letter. It'll have a program summary, and then we'll have frequently asked questions. That'll be going out February 6th. Within that letter, we're going to be advertising a public information session that, we're trying to nail down the exact date, but it will be probably in the third week of February, which will be done via Zoom. And at which time we will make a presentation describing the program, describing the options for folks to opt out if they so choose. And my understanding is that that's going to be sponsored by the Township, and my understanding is that's going to be recorded on YouTube, and so it'll be available on a loop basis on the Township's website. We're also preparing materials, more detailed materials even that are going to be in the mailing, to describing the program and more detailed frequently asked questions, and those will be developed and provided to the Township for uploading on the website. And then finally, at the end of the 30-day opt-out period, after the folks who don't opt out will be enrolled by Energy Harbor, and that will generate another letter from PSE&G, basically alerting the customer that they have been enrolled by Energy Harbor for the start of the program. And folks at that point would have another opportunity, if they change their mind or somehow missed all the previous communications, to call PSE&G and be opted out of the program at that point. So those will be the official communications on the program. And then obviously that can be supplemented with whatever social media initiatives that, the township wishes to use.
Thank you, Mr. Chilton. And now will Mr. Palmer and Mr. DeLuca get a chance to vet through the communication before we deploy?
Correct. We have drafts that we have prepared, and they're currently under review by the township's team.
Perfect. Okay.
I think one of the challenges, I think, is trying to figure out how to have the mailing envelopes be distinguishable from ordinary, solicitations or junk mail. I really do think that is that if we could figure out a way to do that, to really make people pay attention to that particular piece of mail or those mailings, that would help. That's one of the comments that I've gotten most frequently.
So what we'll do in that instance is, if we know the letter's going out on the 6th, we'll do an email blast from the township alerting people that the letter's coming out, so that they can know that it's coming out, and we can show a picture of what the envelope looks like.
Good. No, those are good ideas. I mean, obviously the takeaway is to be over communicative here any way we can, because that's some of the feedback we all received that I didn't know, I wasn't aware. And obviously we know that we did disseminate communications, but I think if we go above and beyond, then we have, a baseline to say, no, we've communicated with you multiple times through multiple channels and gave you plenty of opportunity. So thank you for that.
And Mayor, I guess I'll just add one other thing. In our experience, doing this a long time, we have found that in each progressive round of a town's program, the level of awareness is just naturally higher, and the general level of acceptance is higher. So, it tends to help. Second time around, it'll probably be a little smoother than the first, et cetera. That's been our experience in the past.
Thank you. And my last question, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. I just wanted to mention to you is that, we talked about this renewable energy and it's scaling. It can scale up to 100%, in terms of the plan. I guess my question is, if you were to say go from up to say 75%, in that scale, but then for whatever reason, the cost or whatever, you wanted to scale back or even go higher, is that a toggle, something you can toggle? Is that a variable? So you can fluctuate your renewable content level month to month, or is it just a one-time fix once you start the contract?
So I would say generally speaking, it's a one-time fix. The reason being is that when the supplier is firming up their price and they have a certain level of renewable energy content that they are including in their overall cost structure and their price, once that's firmed up, they're going to go out and buy that extra renewable energy in the marketplace. And so they basically, will hedge it essentially. They will go out in the market and buying RECs at the current renewable energy certificates that is RECs at the current market price. So if you're frequently trying to adjust that, the supplier is going to be in a position of either going out and buying additional RECs, which again, that may be more doable because you're incrementally buying more and they can quote a price and we can decide whether or not we want to pull the trigger on that. It's a little more problematic if you were to dial back after the contract started. If let's say the market price either went up or went down, they'd have to sort of be unloading some of that in renewable energy in a changing market. So it's not impossible to do, but it would take the right set of circumstances and obviously both sides agreeing that whatever the impacts were made sense in the current marketplace.
Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Chilton or Mr. Palmer at this point? All right, hearing none. Thank you both. Mr. DeLuca, would you like to move it?
Mayor, do you want to pursue Mr. Limbrick's suggestion to see if anybody on the call has a question, any of the attendees?
No, that's a good point. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Glenn, do you see anyone to that point who's interested in speaking on this particular resolution?
I do not, but here we go. I do have one. The hand just went down. Joan, I'm gonna unmute you. All right, Joan, I wasn't sure if you were raising your hand.
I have one quick question. Maybe it's a suggestion. Because there are people, particularly in the senior community, who are not online. Would it be possible for there to be a phone number for dial-in for the Zoom information center section? And could that phone number be included in the written material that's mailed to residents?
Yes,
Thank you.
Glenn, that's correct, right? We can have a call in, correct? For our Zoom meeting?
Thank you, Joan. Thank you as always. Great question. Any other questions from the public, Glenn?
I have one more. David Humer. Go ahead, David.
Mr. Humer? Whoa.
You've changed your voice, Mr. Humer.
Give it a go, Mr. Humer.
Having some technical difficulties. David, if you want to submit your question in writing, we can get an answer back to you because we can't understand what you're saying. My email is assstadmin@twp.maplewood.nj.us, and I'll post it in the chat if you want to submit that in writing for us.
Thank you, Mr. Humer. Okay. Any more questions from the public? Okay. Hearing none, thank you, Glenn. Mr. DeLuca, if you'd like to move it.
Yes, I move resolution number 3621.
I'll second it.
Oh, Ms. Adams. Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, was it? I was trying to find the agenda on my screen. Okay.
No worries. It's been so moved. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And again, thank you, Mr. Chilton, and thank you, Ms. De Palma, for being here. We look forward to working with you both and collaborating in the weeks and months ahead.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. I think did we get the question? Oh, no, not yet. Okay. Awesome. So, now we're going to go back to agenda item number 6, which we tabled, which was board and committees. I see that Blue is with us. Good evening. And I'll now yield the floor back over to Mr. Davis and Mr. Limbrick, for the recommendation for the board and community board of police.
Deputy Mayor Davis, I think I'll take this one. Is that right? Okay. Mr. Mayor, Township Committee, and members of the public, we have another vacancy to fill on the Community Board on Police. This one is the SOMA Action designee. And we had a number of applicants and, that were suggested by SOMA Action. And as with the prior gentleman who was appointed tonight, we had a competitive interview process, and the Township Committee selected Ms. Blue Chevanier. I hope I'm pronouncing that close to right. Before we vote to formalize that appointment, I am going to allow Blue a chance to introduce herself to us and to the public, and to tell us a little bit about why she's interested in serving on the Community Board on Police.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very excited about this. Let's see. So my name is Blue Chevigny. I live in Maplewood. I've been here about 6 years, coming up on 6 years. And I was eager to try to get involved with the police board because I've been following their work. I've been interested in what they're achieving, and I've wanted to be able to help directly by being a member of the board. And when the SOMA Action position became available, as a member of SOMA Action, I kind of put myself in for that role. But I'm hoping to bring to the board my, I'm a social worker and a therapist and a mental health professional and a parent in the school district. And so I'm hoping to bring all of those pairs of glasses to the police board and be able to offer my perspective and skills in whatever way is best for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to move Blue's appointment to the Community Board on Police as the SOMA action designee.
Is there a second? I'll
I'll
second.
second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Congratulations, Blue.
Thank you all very much. I'm looking forward to this.
Now you just have more work to do, Blue.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, Blue, you're welcome to stay, or you can, you can log off and enjoy your eating with your family. But thank you in regards to Aaron and everyone. So take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye now. So we'll now move on to agenda item number 15, which is reports from departments. We have none submitted for this particular meeting. So we'll now move on to agenda item number 16, which is administrative reports. Our administrator, Mr. Schuster, is under the weather. And so therefore our assistant administrator, Mr. Michalowski, will fill in for him. So Glenn, you have the floor.
Sure thing, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I have a request from the Director of Community Services to get the consent of the governing body to apply for the FTA 5310 grant, which would be an operating and capital grant to go for vehicles and funding for senior and disabled paratransit services. And then Roger can memorialize that.
All right, I'll move the, Roger, something to say? Go ahead, you were muted. Roger, did you want to say?
Actually, we're going to do it by motion, Glenn. We don't actually even need a memorialization if the governing body is okay with it.
Any issues, concerns? Okay, I'll move that we approve the grant for the Recreation Department as stated by Glenn.
I'll second that.
This is a motion to apply for the grant.
Right.
Apply for the grant, rather. Thank you.
I think,
Then I'll second that motion.
we should approve the grant. I think that's probably better.
I'll second that too.
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion? Any more discussion in this? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Glenn, you still have the floor.
Sure. I have a quick one that I brought up last week. So with the pandemic and a lot of renewed interest in our farmers market, I've been getting a lot of requests. I just wanted to make a request to the governing body, see about maybe forming a small steering committee before I go into recruitment for vendors for next year, just to discuss fees, how you want the market to look going forward, and just get some direction, because it's usually kind of just at my discretion. But there's a lot more renewed interest. I'm getting questions from the SIDS about maybe changing the days. So I just thought maybe we could have a meeting leading up to that.
Happily be on that subcommittee with you, Glenn.
Okay.
Anyone else interested in?
I'll join it.
There we go. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. We got to publicly notice it. There we go. All right, you have your subcommittee, Glenn.
Perfect. The last thing was on the MOA, but that's a discussion item. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait till discussion items?
Why don't we just wait till discussion item, and we'll go pretty quick anyway.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Michalowski? Hearing none, seeing none. We'll catch you in a few minutes there, Glenn. All right, Mr. Desiderio, you have the floor.
I have one item, Mayor, that really comes from the Department of Public Works, since Mr. Schuster's not here. The recycling pickup contract expires on January 31st. Mr. Kittner did the following memo. Last year's contract with Basso Recycling has language allowing a one-year extension under the same terms. While Basso's performance was initially subpar, we believe through our reinforcement, follow-up, and Township's intervention, Basso is currently performing at an acceptable level with some exceptions that he has had over time. Based on their current performance, we take no exception to extending the contract for a period of 1 year. And in fact, that would be our recommendation to the committee, given the uncertainty with the pricing and other factors in the recycling environment today. We've had an opportunity to speak with Dave Basso when he agreed to these terms, and he attached a copy of a letter from Mr. Basso. Please note, I will leave it up to you how to proceed and forward and inform the committee. That's a memo from Mr. Kittner to me. Attached to that is a letter from Mr. Basso to Mr. Kittner. As per our conversation this morning, I, Dave Basso, Vice President of F. Basso Jr. Rubbish, agree to extend the recycling collection and disposal service for the township for an additional year. The terms and pricing will remain exactly the same as this past year. The terms of this extension will be from March 1 of 2021 to February 28, 2022. So that's the information, and I leave it to the Township Committee if you are agreeable to this.
So just a couple of things, Mr. Desiderio, about the use. So the current contract goes till February 28th, not January 30th.
January 31st. It was from February, I believe it was,
I think it's February 28th. That might have been just mistyped by Paul, because that's why we were getting the RFP out for bids for a new contract, because the new contract starts March 1st.
let me take a quick look. I do have the last contract here, Ms. Adams. I don't mean to contradict you, but I'm just, was something I was told differently.
Right, but then what you said about the new one would be to extend it for another year, beginning March 1st through February 28th, 2022. So.
Correct.
Um,
I'm looking.
yeah, I hear you. So
You are correct. March 1, 2020 to February 28th, 2021 is the present contract. So the new one would be from March 1st of 2021 till the end of February of 2022.
okay, and I just also, we are, as we discussed at a previous meeting, we are going out for a request for qualifications soon for a consultant to help us in get information and how to move forward. So I have no objection to this. My only concern is going through February, but in reality, it probably won't matter. What is the status of Giordano, though, since we just extended them to the end of February? Giordano is the end user, so.
I know who it is. You're asking me?
Yeah, because.
I have no idea.
So Paul didn't, Mr. Kittner didn't talk about that. So I have no problem doing this. I think it's probably a smart thing to do, especially given what might come in. But we need to find out about the Giordano aspect or the end user aspect of the contract.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Ms. Adams. Mr. DeLuca, can you follow up with Paul on that, please, and let us know? Okay.
I had a conversation with Mr. Kittner today about the Giordano. I'm under a quarantine order till the 26th, and Greg is not in the office, so he needed a copy of the executed contract. So as soon as Diana's back, we're going to get Paul the info he needs for the marketing of recyclable materials. So I didn't have anybody in today to close the loop on that end of it.
Mr. Desiderio have that contract?
I do not have it. Once the contracts are signed, I send them to the administration to maintain.
It might be able to be found electronically in, because we did just extend Giordano. So maybe it's with a recent agenda for the TC.
Yeah, I've been going through the previous administrator's network drives because there's a lot of contracts and purchasing stuff in there. So if I come across it digitally or Diana gets it to Paul, whichever is first, but he's working on it.
So it sounds like Mr. Kittner is on top of it.
Correct.
Okay. We'll follow up.
In the interim, is any further discussion regarding what Roger has laid out for us from the one contract with Basso? No. Okay.
You need a resolution?
Yeah, somebody needs to move it.
Yes, we need to. So this is to extend the contract of Basso for another year from March 1, 2021 to February 28th, 2022.
Okay, let's go ahead and move it. Need a motion?
I'll move it.
Need a second? All right. I think I heard a second somewhere.
Yep, I seconded.
Okay, good. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, we're clear on the dates. Okay, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
I'm going to vote yes, even though I voted against the contract last year, but I think this is the smart way to go. Yes.
Mr. Lundberg,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, the pricing is, we have to do this. So thank you. Mr. Desiderio, anything else?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Desiderio? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. Ms. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, thanks. I just wanted to report to the Township Committee and also any public that's listening. The grace period for all of our parking within the township expires on January 30th, which means we've been honoring all 2020 permits up till the 30th of this month. But I did want to say that it's gone so much smoother than I would have predicted. People are getting their permits, merchant permits, very few commuter, but all the renewal of our lots and things. It's been really smooth with people using the drop boxes, dropping off their application, which they've been able to find online, and even with the merchants getting the authorization of their employer and just dropping it off. And Ed Starzinski from my office has been turning them around same day. So it's, again, I'm pleased with how we're serving the public, particularly in this instance. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen? All right, hearing none. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item number 17, reports from elected officials. We'll start with Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have 4 items. The first one is I'm going to do a little sharing. Today, I was a volunteer at the Essex County Livingston site. And it was we did a little over 400 vaccinations today. I staffed the front door. I was a front door greeter and saw a number of people from South Orange and Maplewood and even Milburn came in. So it was good to see that our residents were getting on the list and getting vaccinations. It was actually quite interesting because this morning's experience was one thing, and then watching President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris do the memorial tonight was very moving, and the opportunity to really remember the 400,000 people who lost their lives in just 1 year, and the sadness of all that. And I juxtaposed that to this morning, or all day, I was there all day, where people were coming into the door to get their vaccination. They were anxious, they were nervous, they were excited, but most importantly, they had hope that we were going to turn the corner. So it was striking. The day was striking to see that people were coming out to the vaccine in the hope that we would turn that corner on COVID. And then tonight to be reminded of the 400,000 souls who we lost in less than a year. So I know people are having a tough time getting the vaccination schedule, getting an appointment. Just hang in there. I spoke to County Executive DiVincenzo was there today. He is fighting as much as he can with the state to get as many doses as he can for Essex County. And so he has 5 or 6 sites going, and they're really, it runs so smoothly. So hang in there, folks. You're going to get called. We're going to get you vaccinated. So I just wanted to share that with you all. My second item is Black History Month, which is coming up in, about 11 days. So we have another robust set of activities, including the mayor's going to be doing a reading. Everything is going to be virtual. One thing I'm going to share again is the strollers. They're doing this a play. They taped it at the Bergdorf. It's My America, Scenes Celebrating African American Past, Present, Future. And it's going to be by Zoom. We're going to be working with them to get as many people to see that. We have different activities going on, neighborhood groups, Soma Action, Soma Justice, the CCR, the library. So we're really, you're going to see more rolling out in the next week or two as we get ready for February. Third, I just want to remind people this Thursday night is the Hilton Neighborhood Association at 7:30. It's a Zoom meeting. We're going to have a presentation by the a medical marijuana firm that's coming in. They should be opening April 1st or around April. It's Terracent, New Jersey. So that's going to be a Zoom meeting. If anybody wants to join, you can just contact me and I can provide the Zoom information. And lastly, we had our Arts Council meeting, and just want to raise 2 points. One is we're having a discussion and we're doing some planning on how to move from COVID to a new normal and thinking about the role of arts and culture in helping in that transition. We have such an incredible cultural talent in town, and oftentimes it's the arts and music and culture, cultural activities that really help people get grounded again and feel positive and ready to move forward. So we're looking for opportunities as we go through this transition to do more. Once the vaccinations take hold and once people feel more comfortable coming out, doing things in person, doing things virtually. And the second is, again, related to arts. I just want to put a placeholder in when we get to the budget conversations. I know we always look at the income from Woodland, the Woodland and Bergdorf as opportunities to raise money. But I think we're going to have to temper our expectations, not only because those buildings are closed, but I think we want to give a runway for our artistic community to come back. And it might mean providing free space and reduced space so that we can get artists who a lot of them have not been working, give them an opportunity to gradually grow back into a sort of an income stream or a fundraising stream for some of our groups. So I'm going to raise that again while we have our budget meetings, and I just wanted to put a placeholder in. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. And just a quick question: is there anything you wanted to cover regarding engineering, planning, and public works at all?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 4 items as well. I'm going to start off by expressing my pride. I'm really proud of our joining the National COVID Memorial earlier this evening, Maplewood and South Orange. It was very moving, as Vic said, very, very powerful. It's absolutely astounding and immoral that this was the first national recognition of the 400,000 people that we have lost to this global pandemic. The first national reflection of that. And I'm just filled with joy knowing that when we all wake up tomorrow morning, God willing, of course, that we're going to turn the corner here and we're going to rebuild back better for our nation. And the work continues here at home too. So in terms of doing better, this is what I've been working on in doing better for our community in Maplewood. I'll start with policing. As some of you know, you attended, and thank you for joining us this past weekend. On Saturday, the Community Board on Police made its second annual presentation to the community of its work in the past year. The board has done a lot of work in traffic stops, in 911 suspicious calls, in use of force, and has done incredible advocacy on necessary reforms. A lot of things are moving very, very quickly at the state level in terms of changes in use of force policy, in terms of making disciplinary employee records public records, and in terms of what a civilian review board like ours could do in terms of its powers and duties. And so we will continue evolving as we need to, so that we can better serve our community. And, earlier this evening, of course, we appointed 2 new members. We are expanding our board because there is a lot of great work to do. In the social services arena, I'll start with food insecurity. We had our first meeting with the youth groups and our public health officer, and our community services director to sort of just start talking about the community fridge idea. We're very, very early in our planning. At this point, we're talking about all the various areas that we need to cover, location, of course, sanitation, all of our community food partners who are going to keep this thing stocked, and of course, budget. We're fortunate that we probably don't have a, fingers crossed, budget issue, because we can cover most of this through the Vulnerable Population Grant that was awarded to our Department of Health earlier this year to do COVID vulnerable population outreach work. Very early, but we are moving forward, and we are being ambitious about trying to get this put in our community, introduced in our community this spring. And I will return to the full governing body with more information as this stuff evolves and materializes. Our senior advisory committee is sort of new and improved. We have a couple of new members. We're going to discuss new chairs at the next meeting. We're excited. There's new energy. There's new optimism. There's a lot of things to work on, housing being a prime concern, carrying forward the ADU ordinance that, we'll be soon adopting, hopefully, and covering some of the issues that are concerned to our seniors in town. In light of our seniors, our age-friendly policy, our Soma 2 Towns for All Ages, I want to report that we are submitting our final grant. Listen up here. This is our final grant to the Grata Fund. This means that this is the last time they're going to be covering us, our budget. We're good for 2021, but we need to start talking about how we carry this forward. I think we all want to carry this forward. It's an important initiative in our 2 towns. It's an important shared service. We already have a management committee infrastructure that works well in terms of reporting and supervising the work that is done by the initiative. But we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it and how it's going to work after this Grata money runs out, after this final grant funding period. The management committee met recently, and they will be providing a recommendation to us shortly. And of course, I will report that back, and we will have a fulsome discussion about that. Public health, of course, as you know, we have been working tirelessly with the county and state officials to answer questions and to troubleshoot the technical log jams in scheduling appointments for folks who are eligible to be vaccinated right now. The county is performing little miracles every single day, considering the circumstances. As Vic reported, the operation at all of its sites, across the county, it's very impressive. Operationally and organizationally, it is remarkable effort. But supply is an issue. Supply is not keeping up with demand. And as Vic reported, County Executive Joe DiVincenzo is working really hard to increase our allocation so that we can get to people and have them vaccinated. And I too join Mr. DeLuca in calling for patience and calm. I certainly have been out there in social media trying to answer questions, and people will be reaching out to me on my phone and by email at all hours of the day, which is fine. We will get to you. We will inform you. And it's going to all work out. We just all need to be a little bit patient and to dial it down a little bit, all of the emotions. We're going to get there. And my final area that I want to highlight is economic development. As the liaison to the Maplewood Village Alliance, I want to report that fortunately we are hearing and learning that there is a lot of good activity at two of our major vacancies, our former grocery store and our Maplewood Theater. On the grocery side, there are grocers that are reaching out to the asset management company that owns that store. So, we're hopeful that something is going to happen there soon in the coming months. Likewise, over on the Maplewood Theater side, there are various community partners who are getting together and having really substantive conversations with the owners of the theater about opening the space up and carrying it on as a theater for independent film, but also as a community space, also as a community programming space, also as a cabaret space, and all kinds of other innovative and fun ideas. And hopefully one of these partnerships will really materialize soon as well. As reported in social media, of course, everyone by now knows that our awesome Lorena's has moved into the former Cassidy space. They are currently not open for indoor dining there just yet. That's coming soon, probably by spring. For now, they are, you could curbside pick up from there right now, but you can't eat there just yet, but we're getting there. And I did learn earlier today, I'm afraid, that we have another vacancy, the Renew Integrative Medicine shop, which was very successful at the corner of Maplewood Avenue and Inwood, is going to be closing soon. They have pivoted their integrative medicine techniques online. And their retail products as well, which is the other side of their business. And they just really do not see the reason for a brick and mortar, certainly not in the current environment. So we're sorry to see them go, because that was a very successful business, and the owners and managers of that business were a delight to deal with the Maplewood Village Alliance Board. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. And quick question for you. Is there anything you want to discuss related to code?
Excuse me, related to?
To code committee.
To code, not at this moment. I'll cover code the next report. Keep you guessing.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Ms. Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo what both my colleagues talked about. It was such a needed remembrance this afternoon. And thank you, Mr. Daffis, for coordinating with South Orange to have us all make noise, if you will, and just recognize. But it just meant so much it means the world to me. And I feel like tomorrow after 12 noon, God willing, we can all breathe a sigh of relief that we will finally have, after 4 long years, someone in the White House with compassion and understanding, and even just recognizing, to Mr. Daffis's point, the fact that 400,000 Americans have died from this, 400,000 families and friends of these poor people who passed away from COVID. Just not only with the solitude that people are suffering and dying with this disease, but then they can't even mourn with people. And as a nation, we had a leader who completely ignored it. So they even as a nation, we were mourning in solitude. And it's just, I feel like we can almost breathe and realize that leadership, especially in this time, is so important. And I'm just really looking forward to the change. So that said, I want to thank the CCR for a really moving Martin Luther King Memorial, service yesterday on Facebook Live. It was the singing. It was really put together really well, and it was just good to pause for an hour from our busy schedules and take part in that. I also want to say we're Women's History Month is coming up in March, and we have a planning meeting this Thursday evening, so I won't be able to go, unfortunately, to the cannabis thing, but at Hilton Neighborhood Association, but we'll be meeting online to plan Women's History Month. As you all know, we didn't get to celebrate the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in 2020 due to everything. And so we're looking forward to trying to do something virtually that just recognizes the history of women in our country. Also planning to hold regular Recreation and Human Services Committee meetings, and we're planning those for the fourth Tuesday of the month with a few department heads and relevant other staff as required. So we'll be going over some recreation fees and different things like that are forthcoming this coming Tuesday. And then I want to thank Bob McCoy, Chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee, and Tracy Woods, Chair of the Green Team, along with their partners in South Orange. We've been meeting, and the four of them worked together to draft an RFQ for a joint consultant to try to work through the craziness that is our garbage and recycling collection. So one's legal in both towns, looks that over. We'll be getting that out on the street to get some guidance on how we can try to fix what's going on with the expense and the things that happen with garbage and recycling. Exciting, but really important. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Mr. Limbrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Committee had its first meeting of 2021 last week. Some of the items that came out of that, aside from the usual reports and crime trends, were with the retirement of Captain Williams, we now have a vacancy we're going to fill at the captain level. So we're going to be holding interviews in the coming weeks to promote a captain. We also have a few positions open at the patrol ranks, so we're going to be interviewing some candidates to fill those vacancies as well. We also discussed rates for off-duty police officers, including some of the changes that were proposed for this year that we were not didn't really understand and were not totally comfortable with at the last Township Committee meeting. And we got some answers, and we also some of the stuff we heard gave additional questions. Ultimately it was ones that we were able to resolve at that meeting to bring back for a proposal to the Township Committee at this meeting. We formed a subcommittee working group. Mr. DeLuca is going to represent the Public Safety Committee on that to work with Chief Duvall and with the union leadership so that we can figure out a rate that is fair for our police officers, but also that makes sense for our community and the groups that are served by these officers in these off-duty positions, and is fair. So that's the report from Public Safety. Otherwise, I don't want to repeat what my colleagues have said. But at the risk of repeating what Deputy Mayor Daffis may have already reported, I had to drop off the Zoom for just a moment. The Saturday's annual presentation from the Community Board on Police is now available on YouTube. So if anyone wasn't able to attend on Saturday but wants to catch up on the Community Board on Police, that's now, that the recording of that video is now available. And I wish everyone a good night and a happy Inauguration Day tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. I have a handful of items. I'll be as quick as possible. First and foremost with COVID, I mean, the bottom line is patience. I think Mr. Daffis said that that's really important. A report was provided by the county, and through Friday evening, they had vaccinated 16,908 people, and over 430 were from Maplewood. So they're getting there, and so just be patient. Volunteer, sign up. It's really important, and so please just be patient. At the same time, it's a parallel because we mentioned we have 869 residents who have tested positive for COVID, and we've lost 31 lives. So 31 families in our community have been impacted too. So continue to wear your mask, continue to social distance, please minimize or eliminate all indoor activity if you can. Let's work on it, let's work together. We know there are new strands out there. We all want to get through this. We know there's COVID fatigue, but we just have to stay consistent and strong and patient, and we'll get through this. A couple of things. First, I will touch on some of the business. So the Committee of Entrepreneurship and Economic Development met. Mr. Daffis covered a couple items, but we do have good news and coming out of the village regarding 2 anchor tenants. There's progress there, and it is looking very promising. There's more to come, but that is something that we're very, very positive about. The other thing too that we discussed was that we'll be moving forward with starting our master plan. This is something that we haven't done since 2004, so we'll create a subcommittee to move forward with that. That's a daunting process. Our towns, sister towns of Union and South Orange, just recently completed theirs, and it took between 1 to 2 years to get that done. But this is something, re-examination is done every 10 years, but we're well overdue for a plan. We've had so much movement in our community, technology, sustainability, a lot of factors that we need to revisit and factor in. So more to come on that. And then also, we are looking to do events to stimulate, continue to stimulate our small businesses, such as street closures and events in the village. We are going to continue to support our small businesses throughout our footprint to make sure that they continue to be viable. The planning board met last Tuesday, and a couple of items that were discussed. One was that we approved the ability to put a pizza parlor, if you will, in a mixed development on Irvington Avenue. That's great news. It's more information to come. But the investor is a local Maplewood person who used to work for us and is investing in our community, believes in our community, and providing this commercial entity there will bring a lot of foot traffic and things that we want there, just like we want in any other area of our community. And also we continue to have conversations reviewing the 40-unit facility at 1734 Springfield Avenue. That's an ongoing conversation that the planning board will continue to take on. From a shared services perspective, we touched on this briefly in public safety. There was a lapse in conversations over the holiday. Also some movement at the highest level of the DCA. We actually received a correspondence today that has been addressed, and we'll start to move forward with conversations here in 2021. And then also that was covered in public safety was we discussed, the next steps regarding our auxiliary police department based on the evaluation done by the chief, also by our CFO, Joe Kaloje, who's also our interim appropriate authority for our police. The thought is to move forward with looking at a CERT program. So more to come on that. We'll be working with the county to learn more about that, and then also the community as well. The green team met, that would have been, God, I lose track of time here. I think it was last Thursday we met. And what we discussed was continuing to collaborate with the township in regards to bringing the awareness to our businesses about the ordinance regarding the use of plastics. We will work with them and with Mr. Palma and her team to get the communication out, and we'll be doing some knocking on doors and providing information to help them prepare for that. And then finally, I just want to mention that I had a follow-up conversation with the Danny Ives Foundation. They've communicated to me that they would like to make a donation earmarked for the Maplewood Skate Park for $5,000. And they are also open to a plaque remembering Danny, which they would help compensate for as well. The size of the plaque would be about 15 inches by 15 inches in nature. The location we would have to determine at this point. And the Finance Committee meets next week. And that is it. That is my report.
Mayor, are you going to make a motion to accept a donation on behalf of this organization for the improvement of the skate park?
As you just so noted, I am. And can I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Awesome. Thank you. Please call the roll, Ms. Fritzen.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Okay, we'll now move forward with our discussion items for this evening, which is agenda item number 18. Our first discussion item is regarding Maplewood Public Health Division MOA with South Orange Health Department. And Mr. Schuster is not here, so Glenn, I believe you're going to be leading us in this discussion item.
Sure. I don't have a ton to report on behalf of Mr. Schuster, but he did meet with the business administrator in South Orange and had a discussion with Mr. Desiderio. The MOA is prepared and ready to go to cover any contingencies that may arise as a result of the pandemic. South Orange has it set to be voted on and passed at their January 25th meeting. And this is only this is just limited to the health department. If you have any other questions, I can either direct them back to Mr. Schuster or Roger may be able to assist me here.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, this is for this is really for COVID-19 only. And what it is that the extent reasonably allow for professional opinion of the respective health officers, the township health officer and the village health officer are directed to share health resources with the other for the betterment of the Maplewood South Orange community. And it goes on to say that should the sharing become disproportionate in either sense, then there'll be a true up in terms of cost. The intent is that only if there are excess services that we can provide or South Orange can provide, and that there is a need for the other community, then the two health departments will in fact work together in that regard. So if that is acceptable, then we can do an appropriate resolution, and I have drafted the agreement and we can have it signed.
Any questions, any thoughts?
And I should say that, of course, the health officer, our health officer, has supported this and is recommending it.
Okay. You want to move it?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll. Thank you.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Our second discussion item is the update on bonding for the Maplewood Library. Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 weeks ago, we talked about bonding for the library. I sent you a memo over the weekend. I'm just gonna see if I can find it here. Here we go. So you can see I'm having this fun sharing all these documents. So anyway, the library, you know, we're moving forward. It's you know, nearly a $20 million project. The state grant, township funds, the Library Foundation, Library Foundation has raised $1 million in pledges and cash. They hope to raise more in 2021 and 22. One of the things that is sort of an interesting way they're doing this bond payment is the state is being very stingy in how they pay out the grant. 25% when we do an award construction. So all the design work that we're paying, all the, the architect, the consultants, they're not paying for any of that between now and almost a year from now in December. And then they're going to, once we give out the contract to the contractor, they'll give us $2 million. In order to get the second batch from the state, we have to meet 50% of the project completion, plus we have to spend 75% of our money. So the way this works is we have to spend most of our money before we get the state money. And that's the whole nature of the matching. In the end, it all works out, but so there's a cash flow issue. And one of the things that Mr. Kaloje included in his memo to us of January 11th is because of the cash flow, the way the Library Foundation is committed to raising money, but we're not sure what the ultimate number is going to be. Mr. Kaloje is recommending that we bond for $12 million. If the state money comes in, the foundation money comes in, that'll be used to cancel the resolution at the end of the project, so we won't have to do it. But if we had to borrow this money because the other money came in slow, we would be able to do that and complete the project and not have a problem of waiting for the Library Foundation to raise the money or waiting for the state grant to come in. So I highlighted his recommendation. This is the recommendation from Mr. Kaloje, is that we go out to bond for $12 million. I would like to move that with the understanding that the foundation is going to continue to raise money, and also that we're going to draw every penny of this state grant of $8,388,250.
Thank you, Mr. Du.
Yeah, so I'm moving the $12 million bond.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. So if we don't, because we already agreed to do 10, and then I think it was 11, right?
No, we agreed to do 10, 100, and 10,000. 10 million plus 110,000.
Okay. And I just want, so I'm in favor of this. If we bond for 12 million and we don't lose it, I think what I was reading in that memo was from Mr. Kaloje was that we would just cancel the rest. So we would bond for it, but we wouldn't have to pay it back. It would just be taken off the, okay.
Correct.
Sort of a safety net kind of.
Yes.
Exactly. Mr. Limbrick, I know you lost reception. We were just discussing the, I'm not sure we lost you, but we were discussing the bond, and Mr. DeLuca moved bonding for $12 million, which puts us in a protective situation regarding cash flow, potential cash flow efficiencies.
I'm in favor. Did we vote yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right, good. All right, so to that point, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Okay, we're now on agenda item number 19, which is our consent agenda. Would anyone like to move this consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move all the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on agenda item number 20, our second and final public comment on any subject matter. Glenn, do we have anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Thank you, Glenn. Hearing none, I will now move to agenda
Motion to adjourn.
21. That's where I was trying to go. Can I get a second?
I told you Nova game started at 9.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.